Giants fans, welcome back to another episode of Only a Giant. I'm your host, Michael Doherty. Happy to be here. Not a lot going on right now. It's a little bit of a slow time. So, really just here to talk a little bit about OTAs, do a little bit of a schedule prediction. I'll give you a little bit more info on kind of how I want to do that. And then, kind of a short episode, but just wanted to get something out there to, talk a little bit about the Giants and kind of give the people what they want, if you will. So yeah, let's kind of just jump right in. The first thing that I figured we would talk about is OTAs going on right now. Not a lot of news coming out, nothing really noteworthy, I guess, if you will. But one of my big takeaways is the fact that Andre Patterson is actually working with Kayvon this year. First time. He was working with Drew Wilkins specifically previously because that's who Wink wanted working with Kayvon. I'm really excited about that for a couple of reasons. One of the big things is obviously Andre Patterson has a pretty good track record with working with Dex. He came here in 2022 when with Brian Dable in that staff. And, if you look at Dexter Lawrence's stats prior to, Andre Patterson being here, middling, not anything amazing. It's not all about the stats, obviously, with especially like that nose tackle or defensive end position. Sometimes there's a lot of things that kind of go unnoticed, and you don't see those stats. But with him, 2019, 2020, 2021, first 3 seasons in the league, didn't do much. 2.5 sacks, 4 sacks, 2.5 sacks again, 3 tackles for loss, 6 tackles for loss, 5 tackles for loss, QB hits, 9 QB hits, 10 QB hits, 11 QB hits. So, really just kind of okay numbers, not what you really kind of want out of a first round pick. You kind of hope for a little bit more. And obviously there was some extenuating circumstances with that, with a horrible offense, a lot of drama going around, not a great defense, just a lot of different things kind of mixed in. But the proof is there. When Andre Patterson gets there in 2022, Dexter is an all-pro, second-team all-pro player, a Pro Bowler, has 7.5 sacks, 28 quarterback hits. That's more than he had in 2 of the 3 seasons combined, 9, 10, and 11. But he jumps right up to 28 quarterback hits. He's just a force in the league at that point, first year with Andre Patterson. And, a little bit of that is also that he moved to more of his natural position at nose tackle rather than playing a defensive end of a 3-4. But the proof is still there. He still did some really good things, with Andre Patterson. Second year with Andre Patterson, once again, another good year. He had 4.5 sacks, so maybe not quite the amount of sacks that you want, but still 21 quarterback hits, another AP Player of the Year nominee, All-Pro, Pro Bowler, all that good stuff. So, he took Dex, somebody that was all right, and maybe not quite living up to expectations, but still playing well, and made him this player, this all-pro player. So you get him in the room with Kayvon, and what's going to change? Maybe nothing, but what you hope to see is maybe better hand usage on pass rush moves, some refinement with those pass rush moves as well, better technique holding the edge and defending the run, and just a more overall cohesive unit with the front 4. With Dex, with Burns, with Kayvon, and whoever else is going to be on the line at that point, whether that's Nunez Roches or whoever else ends up being their Phillips. But I think in general, him getting his hands on Kayvon finally is going to be a great thing for the defense, great thing for the team, and great thing for Kayvon. I mean, yes, you have a guy that has proven to be able to develop sexy Dexy, and the sky's the limit, I think, for Kayvon if he could just put it all together, be a little bit more consistent, with what he can do, and see what happens. So that's my kind of like really, I don't want to say big takeaway, but that's one thing I am very excited about, to see what happens there and see how Kayvon develops, see how Brian Burns develops in this defense as well, and see how they feed off each other, see what they can do, see if we can become a dominant force with being able to get the some rush with the front 4. Obviously, he may still drop back a little bit. It sounds like that's still something that may happen every once in a while, dropping back into coverage and bringing, a slot blitz or bringing a linebacker up the middle or something like that. It's going to be a lot of rushing four. Doesn't always mean it's going to be the front four. So that should be interesting to see what happens there. The other big takeaway that I came out of OTAs so far, at least, is the fact that Cordell Flott is going to get the chance pretty much right away to earn, or at least keep the cornerback 2 position. So it's going to be him and Deontay Banks at least to start. Maybe McLeod kind of rotates in. Maybe Trey Hawkins pushes for some time. We'll kind of see what happens there. I am excited about that. One of the big things that people kind of forget about with Cordell Flott is he's still 22. I mean, he is so young, which to me is kind of absurd. He does turn 23 in August. So, mid training camp, he'll be, or maybe towards the end of training camp, he'll turn 23. But dude is still young. He's 6'2", 175 pounds, soaking wet probably. He does still need to put some weight on. I think actually somebody asked him about his weight recently, and he said he was about 177. So not much change, I guess, really. But he'll have a chance, have a chance to earn the outside cornerback 2 position, see what happens there. One of the kind of interesting parallels is him and, another big cornerback in the division is Emmanuel Forbes, another really small guy, 6 foot, 180 supposedly. But if you see that picture that's floating around the internet right now with him and a fan, does not look 180. He came in the league at 166 at the combine, and you're telling me that he put on 14 pounds of muscle or fat, I guess. Does not look it. I don't believe it. I'd be surprised if he's 170. Maybe 175. But kind of interesting because they're both really the same age at this point too. Emmanuel Forbes is 23 actually right now. He turns 24 in January. So about a 6-month difference. But Cordell Flott's been in the league for 2 years already, going on 3. Not comparing the talent because obviously, Emmanuel Forbes was a first rounder as opposed to Cordell Flott being a 3rd rounder, I believe. So talent is a little bit different, and I'm not gonna deny that. But Emmanuel Forbes didn't look great as a rookie, and we'll see what Cordell Flott can do with his chance here to really kind of finally step in and try to earn that number 2 spot. What else? What else is going on, guys? I guess the next big thing that you really want to look at is the offensive line and the kind of the combinations that we've had so far. Josh Azudu being at left tackle a little bit, I don't love. He was drafted as guard. I'd really like to give him some reps at guard. Not exactly sure what's going on there, but that could just be, kind of something where they're letting him work a little bit, see if he can get comfortable there. And then when training camp starts or, mandatory mini camps or whatever, they'll have, Andrew Thomas back there. They'll have somebody else at the, backup positions and let him rotate it in at guard. I don't know. I hope they give him a chance at guard to kind of earn a spot on this team, even if it's backing up, John Runyon or somebody else. But the current formation, at least as far as what it looks like, or the current offensive line looks like Andrew Thomas at left tackle, which obvious, although interestingly enough, it looks like PFF did not have him ranked inside the top 10 for offensive tackles. Maybe that was a mistake. I haven't really looked into it too much more. I kind of scoffed and I just kind of laughed and moved on when I heard that. But that's got to be an oversight. I mean, he's easily a top 10 tackle. He's a top 5 tackle. He's probably a top 3 tackle in the league right now, honestly. Left guard though was James Illuminor. I'm not opposed to it. I think you got to give Evan Neal a chance to win that right tackle job. Doesn't mean he will, but give him the chance at least. I'm sure he'll have, I don't want to say a long leash, but the more I think about it, the more that they really want and need him to succeed at right tackle. So James Illuminor at the time, of OTAs was at left guard. John Michael Schmitz at center, which is an obvious one. John Running Jr. is at right guard, which is interesting too, because he did come out saying that he prefers left guard kind of when we signed him, but he did have plenty of snaps, almost an equal amount of snaps at left guard and right guard in his career. So I think he'll kind of hold that spot down. Maybe it'll be better to have that kind of veteran presence next to Evan Neal. Obviously, Illuminar is too, but he's more inexperienced at the guard position, I believe. I think the last 2 years, Illuminar played tackle. So that puts you obviously at right tackle with Evan Neal. So that might be the starting line kind of going into week one. Obviously, injuries always play a factor. Evan Neal is still kind of coming back from an injury as well. Andrew Thomas hopefully is healthy and moving good and kind of fully recovered from last year. We'll see what happens. You know, I'll talk about that as we get a little bit closer to the record prediction, but cautiously optimistic, I would say, with a line. You know, not super confident. I'll be honest. I'm sure most Giants fans are not super confident at this point, but it's the line we got. You know, it's kind of sink or swim at this point, and I think we'll be average. I think we'll have an average offensive line. Evan Neal progressing or not, you know, I think we have enough other options at the guard positions where if we need to throw James Illuminar back at right tackle, maybe we can just try to slide Evan Neal in at a guard position, although that seems like you'd have him lining up at a guard position right now to really have that as an option. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. What else is going on with OTAs, guys? Not a lot. Daniel Jones is participating in 7-on-7s. Seems like he is throwing with some good zip. Seems like he's making the right decisions. Glorified practice. You know, who really knows how much reading he is actually having to do and reading, going through his progressions and stuff like that. But the big thing that happened with the quarterback position is Drew Lock not looking great. That's an issue. You know, obviously, week one of OTAs, it's not something to overreact to, but keep an eye on, monitor. Apparently was missing throws, throwing late, just overall not looking very good. Now, it is a new system, guys. It's a new system that he's not used to. He's learning the terminology. He's kind of learning what people are doing. So it's going to take a little bit of time. That's kind of what these are for, to be completely honest with you. What else? That's it's really not much else actually going on here. But Daniel Jones does seem to be on track to be ready for training camp. One of the other kind of unique things I've seen kind of brought up a little bit actually as well is last year, and maybe even 2 years ago too, there was very little 11-on-11s. This year, a lot of 11-on-11s in OTAs. What does that mean? Probably nothing, but I think a lot of people would probably agree with me if we said that last year coming out week one, obviously pretty flat. And that's probably an understatement. I know training camp, they kind of went pretty hard, it seemed like, in the joint practices and stuff of that nature. But when we got to, week one of preseason, week two of preseason, week three of preseason, starters barely played. It was all about developing the backups. Daniel Jones barely played. I remember the one game I was actually in Texas watching the preseason game. My wife sitting next to me at a buddy's wedding, and it was an opening drive. Who was it against? I almost want to say the Jets. And Darren Waller and Daniel Jones were just connecting. They had a really good opening drive, and he kind of was just hoping for a little bit more. But that's all they were in there for. They didn't see any more action. It was really a really light training camp, it seemed like, as far as physicality and starters getting any type of work. So I'm wondering how much that changes this year after last year. I have a feeling that's going to change a lot, and there may be a lot more 11-on-11s. There may be a lot more hitting. There may be a lot more starters playing week one of preseason, week two of preseason. And it makes sense. It's almost to a point where obviously last year you wanted to try to come out of training camp healthy. You wanted to come out of preseason healthy, but what did it get you? 6-11. So, injuries aside, I think we got to make sure that we are ready for week one. We actually have some very winnable games to start the year. And I think coming out a little bit stronger, a little bit more depth, a little bit more ready, will be a really good thing for week one. That's all I really got for OTAs and kind of stuff of that nature. Obviously, I think the 29th which is tomorrow. Maybe it's Thursday, actually. I think maybe it's Thursday is the next media session that's available to the public, or to the media, I should say. So, maybe we'll get some more information then. Maybe we'll get some more offensive line alignment. Maybe we'll see, Darius Slayton was there today. Actually, that was one of the other big things that kind of happened. Oh, and God, guys, what am I doing? Malik Neighbors looking good in camp. Always a good thing to see. Now, you don't obviously get too worked up about it. He's a first round pick. He's kind of been there, done that type thing. Obviously not in the NFL, but he's a good receiver. He's probably kind of expected to look good, look the part. But he's made some tough catches. He's, plucking the ball out of the air rather than letting it come to him. He just looks the part so far, and it's good to see. We haven't had someone like that in a while. Man, Cruz, I don't even know. Hakeem Nicks, you're kind of going back quite a ways. Obviously Odell, I shouldn't say that, shouldn't leave him out. But that's about it. Golden Tate, I don't know if we want to include him in that. Although he had some moments with us, obviously. What else? Yankees up 1-0. By the way, Juan Soto home run, love it. All right, I guess next we'll just jump right into the record. The record prediction here, just based off the schedule being released. I know that was a week or so ago, maybe even a little bit longer ago, but I figured we would kind of jump into that and talk about it a little bit. A couple things I want to say before I kind of get into my record prediction, and we'll go through kind of each game and talk about them a little bit. I'm kind of going off this based off the Giants having an actual offensive line this year. Not a great offensive line, but an average offensive line, 16, 18, somewhere in that range where they can function. They can have a functional offense. I mean, the last year was just so bad. I don't think it can get any worse than that, but I don't want to say that too loud at the same time. So we're going to kind of base this off, the Giants having a decent offensive line, an average offensive line. And also, what do I think that is going to do for the Giants? I think that's going to kind of modernize a little bit more the offense that we've run the last couple of years. Now, that has been obviously a couple things that have impacted that. Obviously, the offensive line, the quarterback play, Saquon Barkley being kind of your star offensively at the running back position. I think that kind of limits your offense. It's good to be able to get Saquon the ball out of the backfield, but teams were keying in on that. Quarterback play couldn't get the ball out quick enough when you're having a 1 second pressure and kind of people in your face immediately. There were multiple games, guys, last year. I know everyone hates Daniel Jones. I know we tried replacing him. I would have been fine if we did replace him, with a quarterback in this draft. But there were multiple games last year where Jones would take the snap, take a step, and someone's already in his face, and he's already having to make a decision, or scramble, or try to tuck and run, or throw the ball away, or find your hot route, or your drop down. It was absurd. It was honestly absurd with how bad our offensive line was last year. Now, I'm not giving Daniel Jones a pass because we're past that point. Obviously, at this point, he kind of has proven to be what he is until he proves otherwise. I think we'll get a mixture of 2022. We'll get a mixture of 2022 and honestly maybe closer to his rookie season as well. If I had to guess, the turnovers will probably go up because we're going to be throwing more, but we might see more than 15 touchdown passes in a season. I think we'll still use his legs. It's a weapon. We'll see how he recovers, obviously, with the ACL and everything, and if he can actually be a threat there. But I think he will, and if he can't, he may find himself replaced. You never know what's going to happen there. But I do think he's going to have a decent year. I think the offense will be a little bit more modernized, where it's such a more passing league right now. Excuse me, guys. Let me get a little drink here. Much better. It's such a more passing game now. And obviously we haven't really been able to do that. Towards the end of 2022, I think we kind of got into that a little bit more of what Dable wanted. And week 2 against Arizona, where we kind of had to open it up and get the ball thrown around a little bit in the second half. So I think our offense will be serviceable. I think our offensive line will be serviceable. I think Daniel Jones will be serviceable, and our offense will be a little bit more modernized into what Dable wants and what Kafka wants. And sounds like Dable will be calm plays too. I mean, at least the early signs have been pointing towards that, according to the beat and everything of that nature. So I think it'll be a little bit more modern offense, and I think that'll definitely benefit the Giants. Getting the ball out a little quicker, have some players that can actually make some plays, have some players that can stretch the field. When you add in Hyatt speed, Wan'Dale speed, with Malik Neighbors and potentially your tight ends and maybe a running game that's not amazing but can get the job done, I think it'll be a really interesting season this year. So let's just jump right in. Week 1, Sunday, September 8th, Vikings at Giants. It's a 1 o'clock game. Love that it's a 1 o'clock game. I honestly really wanted this to be the Commanders week 1. Didn't get it, but Vikings, it'll be a very winnable game. It's either going to be Sam Darnold or J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, they have weapons. I'm not going to deny that. You got Justin Jefferson. You got Addison, a running game. Who's there now? Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is a running back. But an offense, nonetheless, that's probably going to be led by, if I had to guess at this point, Sam Darnold week 1. It wouldn't shock me to see him starting. J.J. McCarthy, we'll see. But I kind of have this feeling that Sam Darnold is going to be the starter week 1. And that's going to put the Giants in a great position to get their first win of the season, kind of get last year's taste out of your mouth and start the year off right 1-0. If I had to put a score prediction on it, I don't know if I can really do that. But, maybe something like 24-20 or something along those lines. It's not going to be super high scoring, but I think our defense will do enough to hold Sam Darnold in that rushing game and Justin Jefferson to minimal contributions. So starting off the year 1-0 on September 8th, Giants immediately go to Commanders in Washington on another Sunday, which is September 15th, like I mentioned. And I think they get a win. It's tough to always pick against the Commanders, but we sweep them a lot, and even 2 years ago, 2022, we beat them and we tied with them. So 1-0-1, didn't beat us. Although I felt like a loss, to be completely honest with you. But I'm gonna go with a win in Washington for week 2, which kind of gets you feeling good, guys. 2-0 starting the season. Very reminiscent, I think, to 2022 in that sense. But then you get into week 3, Browns. I think they're a very beatable team, and you assume Deshaun Watson's the quarterback at this point. All signs point to that. Obviously, they gave up a lot to get him. They paid him a lot of money, so the assumption is he's probably the starter week 1. They don't really have a lot of competition there as far as the backup quarterback position. Actually, now I'm thinking about who is their backup. Cleveland Browns backup quarterback. Let's look that up. All right. So, that's right. Rookie mistake there. So, famous Jameis is the backup there, and yeah, obviously he's not going to start over Deshaun Watson, but I still don't have a lot of faith in Deshaun Watson as an NFL quarterback. I mean, he kind of put some things together last year a little bit and started to look better, but he's got so much off the field issues and just a lot of other things going around that kind of clouds his availability and stuff of that nature. Now, obviously, he's going to be there. There hasn't been anything new coming out, so the assumption is that he's going to be the starter and he'll be there all year to play. But we'll see. But Browns, I think, are going to be tough. They do have a really good defense. I believe their defensive coordinator is still there, Jim Schwartz, who's an awesome defensive coordinator. Now I feel like I have to fact check myself after forgetting about Jameis Winston. Oh, let's see here. Defensive coordinator. Browns. What do you guys think? Yeah. Jim Schwartz. I knew it. Just second guessing myself there a little bit. So I think that's going to be a tough matchup. They do have, the potential of having a pretty good offense, a good running game. We'll see what happens with Nick Chubb. I'm not sure if he's going to be ready or not. But you can't win them all. This is the NFL. It's on the road. I'm going to go a loss on that. So at that point, one game left in September, 2-1 going into Dallas. Should be a fun game. Actually, I apologize. It's not in Dallas. It's going to the Meadowlands, and it's actually on my birthday, September 26th, which I'll be at that game. Actually, I already bought tickets. So Thursday night football should be a blast of a game. It's a loss. Dallas, I'd love to think that we can at least go 1-1 with them this year. That would be a good sign of improvement, I think. But we'll see. At that point, though, loss. 2-2. Cowboys offense going to be tough. Cowboys defense always tough. Week 5, we're going into Seattle. It's a road game at Seattle. Always a tough place to play. I can't stand Geno Smith. I got to be honest with you guys. But I think that team is just good enough all around. Strong running game, good offensive weapons, good defense, or hopefully a better defense. I think that's a loss. So now we're 2-3 going into the second week of October, and we got the Bengals coming to Giants Stadium. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, baby. We'll see if he's still here. A tough team, another team where unfortunately I think it's going to be a loss. Too much of an offense for us to really try to keep up with. Hopefully our defense can keep us in the game, but that's going to be a tough ask, and I think that's another loss. Next week, Eagles at Giants, Sunday, October 20th. Eagles are going to be tough. Once again, this really isn't a surprise to anybody. I feel like I'm being a little monotonous or repeating myself here a little bit too much, but another tough game. Eagles have had the Giants number. Obviously, we beat them last year towards the end of the year, but not really a game that they were playing for much. I believe, if I remember right, Hurts was sitting somewhere in the third quarter. I think he was sitting. That's a loss, unfortunately. Next week, you have Giants at Steelers, Monday, October 25th. At this point, I believe we are 2-5. And playing the Steelers. It's a Monday night game at Steelers. It could be a tough environment. I think that we're going to pull that game off. So at that point, I'm going to say 3-5. And looking good. 3-5. Commanders at Giants again. So Sunday, November 3rd, another Giants win, followed by another win against the Panthers on November 10th. That's our bye week. That's the Germany game. We're undefeated in those foreign games, and I think we will continue that. So at that point, guys, I have us at 5-5 going into the bye week. Good place to be. I mean, you don't like that little stretch, week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7, with some really tough games. Week 8 against the Steelers, still a game that I think we can win. But hopefully at that point we can kind of right the ship a little bit, get a win against the Steelers, get a win against the Commanders, sweep the Commanders again. Obviously that's not going to be an easy thing at this point either. With a new quarterback, new offense, new coaching staff, kind of new everything there. Could be. A much tougher Commanders team that aren't pushovers or a team that we sweep every year. We'll see. But for the moment, we have done it, and I expect to continue doing it until I see otherwise. After that, you get back from the bye week. You start right away with the Buccaneers coming to the Giants Stadium. That's a win. Another one of those games where everything has to kind of click, has to go right. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. I wouldn't say he's a great quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback either. He's a good quarterback that can get the job done, get the ball to his receivers. but I'm hoping that we can generate some pressure against him, force him into making some quicker decisions. That tends to be where he struggles. If that first read's there, he can hit. His going to that second and third read and sometimes being overly aggressive can be a fault of his. So I'm going with a win against the Buccaneers. I just don't think they're going to be that great of a team. That doesn't mean they couldn't win the NFC South, but who knows? Giants Cowboys Thanksgiving at Cowboys Stadium, November 28th. I'm being a little bold here. I'm going with a win. Giants win. Hopefully a game at that point that we can make a statement. 7-5 at that point, if we can get that win, prove that we have the potential of being a playoff team. I do think this is a good staff. I think we can get the best out of our players. I think everything really just went so wrong last year. Now, 2022, you can argue with me and say everything kind of went right that year, and you're right, it did. But man, the offensive line was just so bad last year. I really think that and then obviously the injuries to the quarterback and stuff of that nature all really kind of played a big role. After that, Saints at Giants. That's a win. Saints, nothing I'm scared about. They always have a generally a good defense, a good offense, but subpar. Derek Carr doesn't scare you. Jake Hayner, anyone else. They just drafted the quarterback. I can't even think of his name off the top of my head, but nobody wanted him. After that, Ravens at Giants. Tough game. We beat them in 2022, but a lot had to go right in that game. We kind of just talked about that a little bit. I think that's a loss. Giants at Falcons, Sunday, December 22nd. It's a win. Falcons, who knows, will be starting at that point. You assume Kirk Cousins will still be the starter. He's going to remember his time at Minnesota when we carved up their defense and played them really tough. Yeah, we lost week 17 or whatever it was, but we beat them in the playoffs, and I think we can beat a Kirk Cousins led team again. We're used to him from the time when he was with the Commanders or the Redskins at that point. It's a win. That's a win. 2 games left, guys. At this point, we're sitting at 9-6, and Colts coming to the Giants Stadium. We don't know the exact date on that. It's flexing. They could flex it, but I think we beat the Colts. Anthony Richardson hasn't proven anything yet in the NFL. Doesn't mean he won't be good. Doesn't mean he might be the next best thing, but he might not be either. The Colts haven't really proven much yet, other than being a subpar team. We'll see. I think they're a very beatable team. I'm going with the win. Last game of the year, Giants are sitting at 10-6. My assumption at this point is maybe that they're in like a wild card position here. Playing the Eagles, it's a loss. Eagles, unfortunately, I still think are a much better team than us. I think we are. I don't know. I don't know if we're closing the gap on them. Maybe we aren't, but I think in general we are getting a little deeper as a team. We're getting some talent. We're setting ourselves up, I think, for some good talent down the road. A lot of it will depend on how Daniel Jones plays this year and kind of in this record prediction here or schedule prediction that I have them at 10-7 to end the year. It's, basing off the fact that the offensive line is hopefully going to be average. Daniel Jones is going to be average. Get the ball out, throw the ball a little bit more, be a little bit more productive in the passing game. You might suffer a little bit with the run game, but this is more of a modern NFL, and I think this will kind of benefit the Giants with Malik Neighbors, with Jalen Hyatt, with Wandell, with Darius Slayton still being here potentially.